How's it going, everyone? So in the last episode, the last thing I did was take the carbs off of this old jet ski. So I'm gonna start off today's episode. You can't see them yet, but I got the carbs back from the gentleman who rebuilt them for me. They're wrapped up in this bag right now until I'm ready to put them on. So I'm gonna start out today by finally finishing the premix conversion. I already put the caps on the oil injectors. You can see right here there's one, and then down under here there's another one. Now I just have to take that pump out and then pull the plastic drive shaft out, which shall be interesting because there's not a lot of room, but it should work. And then I'm gonna put some RTV silicone, make a little gasket, and put this plate on with these bolts, and I should be all done converting this thing to premix, and then I can move forward with the fuel system. All right, so it's a little tight quarters for you guys to be able to see in here, but the pump came out no problem. This is the side that you see when it's on the ski. I guess it would be like this, I think. Yeah. Held in by these two 4mm Allen bolts, and that's it. This thing connects to this little plastic drive shaft, which pulled itself half of the way out for me, so I just pulled it the rest of the way. Now I'm going to put this plate on, and we should be all set. So that was simple enough. So I got the block off plate installed with this RTV silicone. It's tough for you guys to be able to see in there, so not really much to watch if you were to watch me doing it. Probably still can't even see it. All right, this is gonna be upside down. I want to give you guys a visual. Obviously my RTV is quite messy and far from beautiful, but it should work. So yeah, that's the block off plate. Pretty simple to do. It's just a little tricky because doing it in the ski, can't really see too well and it's at an awkward angle. But I was able to do it. That's why the RCV is so messy down there, because I kind of touched it a little bit with my finger when I was trying to get the plate on. But I got it done. So oil block off / conversion to premix should be completely done. There's plenty of oil in the oil tank. The line still goes from the oil tank to the crank itself, or to the bottom of the crankcase. So that will always get lubed up. The next thing, I might put some Teflon tape on this temp sensor threads just so I can have that done as well. And then maybe start fiddling with this fuel selector. So that's that. Oil system complete. So I just pulled this temp sensor out of the head right here. It's actually the bottom. This is the top. And I'm gonna put some Teflon tape on it so that way it's a nice seal. The tape that I found is much too wide for the thread, so I'm gonna cut it in half, cut myself a sliver. Hopefully that's enough. I really dislike Teflon tape, and this is exactly why. Also, I guess the white stuff is probably better, right? Oh yeah, that'll work. It's a good seal. Alright, so now she's got Teflon tape in the threads, and I feel much better about putting that back in. So that's what I will do next. This is a 13/16. Tough to know when it's in all the way because it doesn't go to the bottom of the threads, so it's almost like a guessing game. I think. I'm sure there's torque specs for it. But who needs those, right? You guys know. That's good. Or a little more. A little more. That looks good to me. Alright. Temp sensor done. Well, as you guys can see, I'm completely drenched. I just used all of the force that I could muster up on this Phillips head bolt one last time to give it a shot before I destroy it. And she came free. So basically what I did is I put my whole, like I stood up on the ski as if I was riding it. I used this long screwdriver with a nice fresh Phillips head on it. And put it in like so. A side note, I've been soaking this bolt in WD-40 for like a few days now. So I use my right palm and press it on the top of the screwdriver as hard as I could possibly press. And then I just started just slowly turning with my left hand. And it started to move a little bit with so much resistance, but it wasn't stripping, so I kept going and it got easier and easier. And now she's completely free. All right, there's the little bolt. It's almost stripped. And I think, pretty sure this thing's supposed to just pop out. Might need to dry my hands and get a paper towel or something so I can grab that, but the important note is we got the bolt out, so that's huge. Now I can finish, like actually finish with this fuel system. So the next steps, wow, it just randomly started raining. It's like a hot day. Look at all the vehicles just watching. So the next steps now, oil system's done, temp sensor's all set. Now I just have to get this fuel selector off, finish making fuel lines for the lines that go to the fuel selector. I believe there's one that goes to the carb right here. There's a breather from the tank, and I think the return, or one of the ones that goes to the fuel filter. Few lines left to make. Button those up. Put, actually, you guys haven't seen this. I have a new fuel selector valve, so this is what is underneath that knob. This actually might help me. This is what's underneath. The little bolt that I took out screws into there. The plastic nut I was talking about goes on these threads. But yeah, that knob should just pull off the top here now that I got that bolt out. But anyways, this goes in here. Forget which way, but it goes underneath. Pipe up my fuel lines to that. Put the carb on, which I showed you guys earlier, with a new gasket right there. Get all the fuel lines on it. And then make a ground. I'm gonna put the ground right here. I think I mentioned to you guys, here's my cable. Slap the battery in it, see what happens. So we're getting there. The end is in sight. Still a lot of stuff I want to do this thing, but just to get it to see if it will run, we're almost there. Yummy. Alright, now I just gotta get this plastic nut off. That should be interesting. Oh yeah. Right up there is where it comes out, and then there's your sending unit for the tank. I gotta replace those lines, the ones that go to that fuel selector, and this one that goes to fuel filter. So I'm gonna pop this thing out the bottom, and then hopefully I'll be able to see it with the lines still connected. I can label my lines, and it'll just make it easier when I go to make them and install the new valve. I'll be able to hold them side by side with labels on the lines. So that's the best thing to do. So I'm gonna do that. You guys won't really be able to see, but it just pops right out the bottom. Right out under here, pops out, and then I'll hold it right here. Hopefully, mark my lines and move forward. So I just yanked another fuel line out of this thing. It's right here. It's a long one. It comes from the sending unit. Let's think here. The right one on the sending unit. So there's 4 of them, front, back, right, left. This is, if you're sitting on the ski, right one on the sending unit right here, to the carb, the rear carb, and it immediately goes into a Y right here and feeds the carb. On the sending unit, there's 3 other ones, as I had mentioned. Those are on and reserve on your fuel selector valve, and then there's a breather. And then out of the fuel selector valve, well, there's right here you have your on, reserve, and then out goes to the filter. So it comes out of the fuel tank in either on or reserve, goes up to the fuel selector valve, comes out of the fuel selector valve right here, and goes into the filter. All makes sense. Into the filter, and then out of the filter right here, goes to right there, and then there's this other one. So maybe this is actually that Y. As I was saying, it goes right directly into the tank. That must be the return. So it looks like I'm actually doing the return right now. A little deducing on the spot, but yeah, so by that math or whatever, by that pattern, that route, this seems to be the return. Makes sense why I would Y together for the return. Yeah, I don't know fuel systems that well, but believe that's how it actually is, what I just figured out. So that's the plan anyways. It's a terrible spot to get to. You won't even be able to see it, but it's right back there in the middle. You basically can't access it from this side. It's just too awkward of an angle, so I'm gonna have to do everything from this side. We'll see. That one came out pretty easy, but we'll see how the others are. So that's it. I'm gonna cut that one, remake it, and then put it back on. Another update for you guys. So I just put that line in that I just previously showed you, and it runs right here. Got it zip tied in to here, and then it just goes to that nipple on the sending unit on the right side. And I managed to get the fuel selector out. So what I did before I took it out is I labeled the lines. This is it right here. I labeled the lines front and back so I know where on the sending unit they go. And then I'm just gonna copy this exact setup with my new fuel selector and my new fuel line. And then I should be able to just put it back in. Fuel line, stainless steel hose clamps. And these are the last of the fuel system lines that I'm gonna change for now. I'm gonna leave the breathers alone. Eventually I'll probably change them, but just to see if this thing will fire up, I'm just gonna do what actually carries the fuel itself, not just the fumes. So this is it. These are the last ones. Exciting stuff. So I'm just gonna cut these to size, make that with this one, and then fish the whole thing back into here. Figure out how to get my hose clamps on the sending unit. That's gonna be the trickiest part. But once that's done, I can put it on the filter here, and the fuel system should be complete. A new one made up. So I just gotta look. So reserve is front, and on is back. So I just need to make sure that reserve, which is on the left side, goes to the front, and that on, which is on the right side, goes to the back. As long as I can do that, I'm gonna put the back one on first because I'm gonna reach it through the front of the hull. Make sure I put my hose clamps on before I put it on there, and it should work out. So just a bunch of tight quarters finagling, but basically I'll put this thing in here into the darkness, do like I just said, reserve and on where they need to go respectively with hose clamps, figure out how to tighten them down, and then I can put this long one right here to the fuel filter and she'll be done. So we got the new valve in here. I cleaned this all up because it was just slimy and dirty. I'm gonna get a new knob just because this one's so worn out from me prying on it with the pliers, obviously, but inside it's worn out and it's just nasty. So I'm gonna order a new one of those. And yeah, so the fuel system is complete. That's awesome. Kind of a headache, but it is what it is. It's all done now in the past, so completely done except for those vent lines. New fuel filter, clean the housing, new fuel lines, all the fuel lines to this, new selector valve, and new line, feed and return to the carb. You guys know that the oil block off is done, and the new carb is sitting in the bag over here, so I'll show you guys that another day. But yeah, so my plan for the rest of the day is I'm gonna steal a bolt out of the other jet ski, the other GSX, that I have bolting right here for the ground cable, because I don't know what threads this is. So I'm gonna bring the bolt to AutoZone with me and hopefully find a match, so that way I can make this ground and check another thing off the list. What's going on, guys? So yesterday I ran to the store and I grabbed some bolts right here. They're M10 by 1.5. These are 20 millimeters long, and some lock washers to bolt my ground cable to the block right here. And I sanded it all down. Come to find out, the bolt is actually too wide to fit in the block side of the cable, so I'm gonna have to get a new end to the cable, I presume, which will involve running to the store. So I put that aside, and now I'm trying to strategize for how I'm gonna put this VTS back together. It's broken, the motor is blown. Let's see, you can't really see, but it actually burned a hole into this thing in the top side right there. But this part is inside the hull of the ski, so shouldn't take on water. I'm gonna put it back in and hook up the little rod that goes to the cone, like the jet nozzle on the back of the jet pump, in one permanent location forever. And I just mocked it up. It looks like it's about where I want to be. And I also have some adjustability on this rod, so I feel comfortable putting it in for good. What I'm gonna do is put a little bit of RTV silicone right around here. Someone had done it previously. I just finished cleaning it up, just to give me a little extra insurance that that is not going to leak. And then I slip this through the hull, and there's a plastic nut right here. Through the back side of the hull, you slide over the shaft, go on like that, and it clamps it to the ski. And then I need to get a new boot. This boot right here slides down over this rod with a hose clamp on either end, so that way it's waterproof, and this rod connects to the cone like I just said. So I'm just gonna put this in. Oh, and this little plate slides in right here and actually holds it to the ski. So I just mounted this because I'm not gonna plug it in at all. I just bolted this motor back in so it's all secure. Now I'm just going to tuck these wires, put the cover on, put a little bit of RTV silicone right there, and slide this whole thing into the back of the hull through that hole right there. And then the plate bolts up with 2 screws right there. So I'm gonna get that done, and then I'll be able to secure the tail cone or the nozzle, whatever. So that's the plan. Moving right along. I'm really gonna start picking up now, so I'm excited to get after it. Alright, so in the last clip you guys saw that I got a bolt and I sanded down the area I'm gonna bolt it to, and come to find out the bolt is slightly too big for my ground cable. So I got a new end to it here that will work perfect. So I'm just gonna take this old one off, put the new one on, and bolt in the ground cable, and that should be done. This one's pretty gross. Just gonna grab some pliers here and see if I can work it off. Probably just end up cutting this off. Now I just get a strip. I don't know if this will be enough. I'm gonna strip this wire clean, like so. Pretty nasty. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I've I wonder how much of a difference that makes. I'm gonna get a rag real quick. I think I'm gonna cut this back a hair. Big dirty cable. I wonder if this will help at all. Then I just gotta crush this and she's done. I haven't exactly done one of these before. Alright, I think I'm gonna have to do this on a vise, guys. So the lights in here are currently out of order, but I think you guys get the idea of what's going on here. Let's see if I don't know if I like it. All right, that's a little better. I'm just gonna tape it up and hopefully she's good. All right, so now I'm just gonna tape this up as best I can and we'll call it good. Okay, and that's good. Hopefully, should be good. It's actually a couple days later. You guys saw me make that new end for the ground cable, and I went ahead and installed it in the ski on the block right here, where I ground clean to have a good connection. So that the ground cable should be all set. And just today, finally in the mail, I got my gaskets for the carburetors. So I should have all the pieces I need to get this thing running. That should be in the next episode. That's gonna do it for episode 2 of GSX Revival. I hope you guys are enjoying the series, and I hope that we see some smoke, good smoke, 2-stroke smoke, in the next episode of this series. So I can't wait to try and get this thing fired up and get her in the water. Thank you guys for watching. As always, if you like what you saw, subscribe and stay tuned for more.